Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's mentorship session hosted by the SWAN Forum and the SWAN Young Professional Group of Rising Individuals and Smart Water Professionals, also known as RiSWP. We're very excited to kick off our first mentorship session. My name is Superior Arden, and I am the project manager for the SWAN Forum. SWAN is the leading global hub for the smart water and wastewater sector. We represent a full spectrum of organizations from idea to pipe in the smart water supply chain. This is a group of our members representing universities, startups, enterprises, and utilities all over the world. We're very excited to be hosting this session. Kick it off to Rudy to introduce the RiSWP leadership team.
Thanks, Sapir, and welcome everyone to our very first Mentor Series interview. My name is Rudy Bueta. I'm leading up the Mentor series from the RiSWP leadership team. And on your screen are the other members of our leadership team, Emma, Lisa, Mahundan, and Jessica. Emma is our team leader, and we are the young professional leadership team of SWAN. Next slide, please. So a little quick background to some other interesting topics that we're running. Lisa is heading up the ambassadors for Rising Smart Water Professionals. So if you're under the age of 35 and you'd like to join us as an ambassador, then keep a lookout. We'll be announcing this, this aspect of our offering shortly on LinkedIn. And now a quick introduction to what this Mentor Series is all about. Our RiSWP Mentor Series aims to create life and career advice from the best in smart water. It's a series of interactive digital interviews with the world's leading smart water sector professionals. We're taking inspiration from Tim Ferriss's book of Tribe of Mentors. So the interviews are structured around a set of 7 optional guiding questions, which aim to draw out the best advice from our interviewees. Thereafter, we'll open the floor to the community to ask their additional questions. And these monthly interviews will be recorded and published on our RiSWP page on the SWAN website. And the hope is that this will become a library of resources for future reference. RiSWPers from all backgrounds and who face various challenges and opportunities will hopefully find this advice useful and with something resonating in there both now and in future. And we hope to create a resource that transcends time. And now I was going to introduce Prof Savic, but I think he would like to introduce himself, as he'll do it much better than I will. So I'll hand over now to Prof Savic. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, and thanks for the introduction, Rudy. Basically, I was thinking, what can I say about myself? I'm a civil engineer. I graduated a long time ago, my undergraduate degree, I think 1983. I started working for a large national consultancy in former Yugoslavia, did my master's part-time working, and I wouldn't recommend anybody to do that if you want to keep your relationships with your better half. Then I decided I cannot do that for the PhD, so I moved to Canada and did my PhD there. And that was, you have to take some auxiliary subjects, and by pure luck or maybe provision, I chose to do some in artificial intelligence, computer science. So that's kind of where I started looking into smart systems. I moved to England in '94, and I started working for the University of Exeter there as a research fellow, then lecturer, senior lecturer, and ended up as a prof. And there I established the Center for Water Systems, which is well known for the use of computational technologies and AI in the water sector. And in 2018, I moved to KWR Water Research Institute in the Netherlands, because I always kind of felt I want to be closer to the coal face, closer to practice. And that's what KWR is. So I'm an expat now in the Netherlands. I'm enjoying being in the Netherlands, but I can tell you I'm not enjoying this virtual world. Yes, we've digitized overnight, but not in the way I was expecting we will. But again, shows how resourceful humankind is, and that's where I am with you today. I'm really excited about this one because I will tell you later on about who inspiring people were, but I didn't have a formal mentor. So I'm here to help after this meeting, obviously, as well, not just during this webinar. So that's all about me in a very whirlwind tour of the places I've kind of visited throughout my professional life.
Thank you so much, Prof, and welcome again. And I'm very glad to hear that you are excited to be helping both in this session and in future. Glad to see that even though you didn't have a mentor, you see the value of it, as that is what we're trying to achieve here, is to grow young professionals. I'm going to start us off with a little icebreaker. So these are rapid fire questions. So whatever springs to mind as I mention them, just fire away. The first is, please complete the sentence. Smart water is.
Ooh, that's a good one. One thing that I've learned in my career is that I'm not the cleverest person in the world, so I actually rely quite a lot on other clever people, and I would what I think is something that I recently came across one of my colleagues from Belgium, and I would say smart water is anything that helps us make intelligent decisions about what you cannot measure based on what can be measured. And I thought that was really good. It wasn't I kind of combined several definitions, but that one by Wim Oudernot from Belgium really stuck in my mind.
Thank you. Yes, it is very important. What you can't measure, almost more important than what you can. And second question, what do people often get wrong about you?
That's a difficult one. Maybe people, look to these profs and they think they know everything, and I don't know everything. Far from it. So don't you be bamboozled by professors.
Very good advice, thank you. And next up is, what is one of your favorite books?
Oh, I'll just show how sad I am. I look into these AI stuff and I'm learning, continuously. There was a book that I bought and read like about 10, 15 years ago, and it's called Data Preparation for Data Mining or Machine Learning by somebody called Pine. And that's one of the best books I've ever read on the subject, because it covers practical issues and cleverly kind of brings that to people like myself, who is not a, computer scientist or a specialist. I'm dabbling in those kind of things, but I read also science fiction. That's what I like as well.
Oh, interesting. I would never have guessed that. And what is a must-have part of your typical workday?
A walk. Before I get to work, or when I get to work, I go for a little walk. So people see me and then I go out. No, I just get there because I need to clear my mind and get ready for the day. And you know, the nature of the work is such that I sit quite a lot. So I would suggest that's one of the key things for my day.
That sounds fantastic. I like to have walking meetings, those are the best. And what is on your nightstand?
Several things, a book usually, a church calendar, and my USB connector, so I'm charging millions of devices overnight.
Especially now when everything is digital. What is a snapshot of an ordinary moment in your life that brings you true joy?
Well, in the current situation, meeting people in person, it's invaluable. I'm missing that terribly, and I feel for everybody who is kind of under pressure because we cannot meet person to person.
Yes, I completely agree with one. Last rapid fire question: what is your latest curiosity?
Oh, well, one of the things, I don't know whether it's a curiosity, but it's this thing about discovering water on distant planets. I know we cannot get into that stuff because we're firmly on this earth, but it's so exciting to find out, you know, what we thought a few years ago that nowhere else there is anything like water. On Earth, we're now finding so much evidence, so much more evidence. But also another one is that in Egypt, they're still finding lots of new mummies. I find that also very exciting. And that one of my colleagues, three. One of my colleagues from the University of Exeter, he's found 8-mile long kind of carving somewhere in South America, and 8 miles long, and it will change completely how we see the world from what those people have done on those carvings. So they'll take years, I think, to investigate that, but I want to find out more about it.
Wow, interesting. Definitely an interest in the past and the future there as well. Thank you, Prof. And now we're getting into the more serious things. I hope that showed everybody a little bit more about your personality and who we're talking to, so that it gives a nice background to the more serious stuff coming up. So now we have our longer questions, and feel free to answer them and explore whatever thoughts come to mind and go down a rabbit hole in what you'd like to mention.
That's very dangerous with the prof.
Okay.
You can go on and on.
The first one is, are there any significant people or events that helped to get you where you are in your career as a smart water professional?
How much time do we have? That's okay. There are lots of people that I've learned a lot from over a period of time. I said I haven't had a formal mentor, but in some other countries, PhD supervisors are not called supervisors, they're called mentors, PhD mentors. And that gives you an idea what they're supposed to kind of do with you, rather than just to get you to the point when you get that certificate. Quite a lot of people, but I would start. The first one was a colleague at the university who is now prof at the University of Belgrade. We were put to the same group at the university because we have the same surname. He's blonde and I'm definitely not blonde. So because we were always together doing revisions and they were always asking us, are you two brothers? We don't look anything like brothers. But the point is, I spent quite a lot of time with him and his family. And his dad is a civil engineer. And he's one of the most important people in terms of mentoring, although he never thought that he was mentoring me, because he opened my eyes to the wider world of water engineering. And so that was one. Then I would say that was my mentor or supervisor from Canada, from whom I've learned a lot, Professor Simonovich, who is at the Western University in London, Ontario. And then when I came to England, Professor Guthrie Walters, who I started working for as a research fellow, who taught me a lot because we spent quite a lot of time together. For example, I was very green, you know, in a sense of understanding the wider world. I was focusing on research, and I would come with my ideas, and you know, he would he was very supportive, but he would say, we're not there yet with my ideas. So I would have to go back and think about it more, because I didn't know when an idea was good enough, how good it was, until I could explain it in very simple terms. So that's one of the lessons I've learned, is if you cannot explain it in very simple terms, it's either not a good idea or it's not cooked enough. So, and then, you know, people like Michael Abbott, late Professor Michael Abbott, who I met after he retired, but he was like in his late 80s, he was reading a lot and doing a lot and still being interested in the field of hydroinformatics that he kind of coined the name for. And, you know, lots of colleagues, you kind of, or I at least, I was like a thief. I was stealing a little bit of the expertise of ideas, of the way people behaved or people organized themselves, so that I can do better as well, because I saw in them something that or somebody that I could learn from. So quite a lot of people that I could call mentors. And you know, I would like to say, it's not just the people who are above me, kind of in the packing order, but all the PhD students that I work. This is one of the key things, is I would come up with an idea, say I would get the funding for it, the project comes in, and the person comes in to do a PhD with me, and they take this project in a different direction than I thought, and every time it was much better than I thought it. So that's another kind of thing that I would learn, that you may start with something, okay, the general idea is still there, but the way how to get to the outcome, it very much depends on a person. I don't know whether I answered your question, but I try to address it in various ways.
Yes, absolutely. That was very interesting to hear. I love that little part about stealing a little bit of information from and learning a bit from each person. Just as a follow-up to that, do you think your career was made by being influenced by many people in that regard?
Yes, I mean, let me give you, well, I made so many mistakes in my professional life and personal, but the key thing is not to make the same mistakes if you can. You know, I thought at the end, my undergraduate degree was 5 years long. That's how long it takes to do it. And I thought I was so fed up with the university and revising and preparing for exams, that I said, I'm never going to learn anything after this. I've got my certificate, that's it. 40 years career. Very naive, isn't it? Okay, 23-year-old, what can you expect? And what I've been doing is self-learning. You know, I've been also attending different courses, webinars, but self-learning and learning from other people is so important. If you see something good, learn from it. If you see something bad, even better to learn from it, not to do that yourself.
Absolutely, yes. Learning from absolutely everything, good and bad. It's very good advice. Thank you, Prof. The next question I'd like to ask is, what is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made? And by investments, it's not necessarily money. It could be time, energy, anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. You see, the first kind of 10 years, 10 years of my professional career, I was in water resources. So my work was mostly about large reservoirs, surface reservoirs, and how water supply can be either brought or hydropower can be generated. So I thought that was what I was going to do. And that was what my PhD was, artificial intelligence applications in the water resources area. And then I went to England to this new job, and the job was on water distribution systems, on pipe networks. I've never done anything with pipe networks since graduation 10 years ago. And that was the time that I had to start almost from zero ground, because I moved to a different country. Nobody knew about me. I knew to a different field. Nobody knew about me in the field. And I had to spend quite a lot of time to kind of pick up an area of kind of professional area where I would hopefully make a contribution. So in that sense, that was the best kind of time of my life. And I was told by one of the colleagues, not in the water field, who said, because I was a postdoc, he said, this is the honeymoon of your kind of career, because you've done your PhD, so that pressure, that Damocles sword over your head is kind of out of the way. You haven't got a real job. That's how it was put to me. So you can actually devote yourself completely to your research. What he was thinking, you wouldn't have to prepare lectures, you wouldn't have to do the administration, so you can devote yourself. And that's what I did. So that was kind of the best investment of my time and energy at the time.
Oh, fantastic. And it's a volume of that. You said you haven't really used pipe distribution networks since then, but do you think it played a significant role in who you are because of the lecture?
Sorry, there was a breakup and I didn't hear the end of the sentence.
Sorry, I was asking if the time you spent there was significant because of the experience, not necessarily to do with pipe networks, but professional experience as lecturer and researcher.
Well, yes, that was before I became a lecturer. And it was important because it was a change in the direction, the area where I was in, where I thought I will be in, completely changed at the time because of the interest in the research community and also in practice. So it was, as it kind of proved later, the best possible decision I could have made at the time, but I didn't know it at the time. And to be honest, if I remember correctly, I was a bit cheesed off that I had to learn all that stuff over again.
Sounds like quite a tough time, but also very valuable. My next question is about leadership. What is the most important leadership lesson that you feel you've learned, and how has it proven so valuable?
Yeah, very, very good question. I think, well, if you don't go to a management school, you're probably not formally trained to be a leader. And I was never formally trained to do anything like that. So at Exeter, I started together with that other colleague, Professor Godfrey Walters. We started a Center for Water System with the two of us, nobody else. And then when I left in 2018, there were about 80 people, including professors and lecturers and students and postdocs. And you have to learn to do things on the fly. So I would say the key thing is clear communication. You know, avoiding, and what I think, I already said simple explanation are the best, but also avoiding kind of using jargon, because for me, that's the first step into getting something obscure and trying again to bamboozle people with something that they may not know. So clear communication is quite important for me. And I would say even for early career, when I was, you know, for academics, it's very important to write papers. And that's how we communicate, apart from conferences and meetings. And I met different people, and I've learned from them, say that I met people who were brilliant, but they couldn't finish a paper in 6 months. The reasons, because they wanted to be very precise, they wanted to be perfect, and you know, going into that complexity, and finishing paper quite often is better than being perfect. So you have to be pragmatic, and that's my, again, approach to the leadership. You can have ideals, and the life is never ideal. The situation is never ideal. So be prepared to make compromises, but be also prepared to kind of draw the line and say, beyond this line, I'm not, you know, it's either ethical issue that you're going to kind of encroach on, or the risks that you cannot take anymore. But clear communications, you know, compromising, and you know, just enjoy doing what you're doing. I still tell people that I'm playing while I'm doing my work, and some of my older colleagues, they say, you're not supposed to do that. This is a serious job. But if I don't enjoy that job, it would be very, very difficult to stay in it.
Fantastic. Yes, enjoyment definitely is an important part of the work. I learned that firsthand. I changed jobs this year and very much happier. And now for the next question. You've given us so much advice already, but the next question is, what advice would you give to a smart, driven, inspired, rising professional or graduate about to enter the smart water world? And is there any bad advice that they should ignore?
Don't listen to, no, don't listen to me, I was going to say, but no. And again, I mentioned this previously, that nobody's infallible. So please, nobody knows everything. That's the key message for all of us. So as I said, I made so many mistakes professionally and personally, and I'm embarrassed about some of those, but it's good to kind of take stock of that. Don't be afraid to ask. I know you've heard this before, but you know, be forceful that you want to know, you want to get that answer, and that you're not dumb if you're asking questions. that's the key. Again, being in the classroom, or having been in the classroom quite often, you know, you would struggle to get people to ask questions because they don't want to appear stupid. And you know, there is no stupid questions. There could be a stupid answer, but that's the key. And the people who know better or know more than you are know better than you. That's the other key, because they know something, but you are probably far advanced in other areas. My advice to PhD students was always, you know, when they prepare for the exam, the final exam, and in England, it's quite different from the rest of the world, because it's done in a closed room with one examiner from external to the university and one internal examiner. So you are being interrogated by two people, and your kind of future depends on it, and people are really scared of it. And my advice was always, you spend 3 years on this. You know that kind of subject, that particular matter, much better than anybody else in the world, even better probably than your mentor, supervisor. So, you know, what is it to be worried about? Okay, they may ask tough questions. They may not even get some of this stuff. That's why they will ask the question. So, you know, don't be afraid to ask questions. People who you ask are not necessarily better than you. They just know a little bit better about, or more about subject that you're asking. And you're not dumb because you're asking those kind of questions. For that's for me. And maybe another one, again, this is my experience. Quite often, you know, when you do research, you think you found something really eureka moment, and it's just short of Nobel Prize. But quite often, if you look historically, somebody has looked into it, or somebody has come up with something similar. So I would say, look back more than 10 years ago, because somebody must have grappled with that issue in a different way, maybe not with computers, maybe not with smart AI, but in a different way that could help you implement smart water system toolbox technologies in a better way. So that's all I can think of at the moment.
Thank you very much, Prof. You sound like you're a fantastic mentor. And my next question is, do you have a mentor? You have already mentioned that you didn't have a formal mentor, but are there any that you would like to mention, or any that played significant roles in your career? Or else maybe you could mention some of the mentor roles that you have played.
Well, I already mentioned a few people, but let me go back to say Professor Simonovic in Canada. From him, I've learned a lot about being dynamic, being inquisitive. He's in his 70s, I believe now. I hope he's not going to take this the wrong way, but he's still kind of like a young child, you know, doing things himself, exploring things. So I always look up to him. That's one person. Again, Godfrey Walters, Professor Walters from the University of Exeter. He's retired again long time ago. And his calmness, oh, I wish I could be that calm. And, you know, when they say English are reserved, no. This guy was very calm, no kind of reservation at all in terms of how he would react or emotions, but he would listen to my bubbles, you know, very patiently, and again, he is a wordsmith, somebody who can properly do it in a very simple English, which is really a skill to acquire over time. Roger Faulkner is another person that I've learned a lot. He is recently retired prof at Cardiff University, who was, I think, the president of the International Association of Hydroenvironmental Engineering and Research, but very down-to-ground person who, for whatever reason, saw something in me and chose to mentor me, although it wasn't formal. But I would go to him for advice on various subjects. So maybe those three at least.
Fantastic. And what is your next big career goal, or where are you hoping to take your career next? And what advice would you give your mentee if they had the same goal as you?
So if I was flippant, I would say I would want to survive for another 5-10 years. The professional career, I've recently got a European synergy grant from European Research Council, because I still kind of feel that I want to contribute to research if I'm not doing the research myself. So that is something that is a 6-year grant that will start next year with 3 colleagues from Germany, Cyprus, and Greece. Very, very excited about it, because it's in the field of water distribution networks, and it's about smart water networks and the application of AI in that area. It's about transitioning of these long-term infrastructure. You know, they have to last hundreds of years, the way we invest, or the rate that we invest in them. And how do you cope with the long-term uncertainty? And how do you incorporate the notions of equity, notions of, I've learned a new word while preparing this. One of the colleagues who prepared it with me, she is from Greece. She's an environmental economist, Professor Phoebe Kondouri. She taught me the verb eudaimonia, well-being. Never heard of it before, but now I'm sure I will practice quite a lot of eudaimonia in my research, because we put it in the proposal and promised to do it. It's the feeling of well-being, and how do we build it into our smart networks and models. So that's kind of on the professional field. And obviously being at KWR, this not-for-profit research institute that is doing interesting research, I want to learn more from the people, because the interest of the organization is much wider than my personal research interests. So I'm learning about wastewater-based epidemiology. How do we use the information from sewers or sewerage to connect to the health of the population? Or how do we find out about biofilms in water distribution networks? Or how do we put intelligent robots in the water networks? So all of that excites me kind of for the future in my personal and professional career.
I just caught the end of that. Sorry, my connection died, but that sounds very exciting and inspiring, and I'll watch the video to catch the rest. My last question, and then we'll hand over to the audience for some questions, is what is your favorite question to ask in an interview, and how would you answer it?
Okay. I think I already answered it, because my favorite question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And that's the question basically to see whether people have ambition, what is that ambition, and whether, in my view, is realistic. And then I probe a bit more whether I think they're not ambitious enough or if they're over ambitious. But that's what I like to ask people when we interview them. I assumed it was your question was when you interview for jobs.
Yes, yes, and you have already answered it. Thank you. I'm now going to hand over to my colleagues who've been watching the chat box here. So hopefully we've got some amazing questions from the audience. Lisa, are you asking our next question for us, please? Thanks.
Sure. So we have some questions in the Q&A and also in the chat. So I'll start with the first one that came in through the Q&A, and it is from Amrita Gautam. And the question is, how do you approach digitization in the water supply sector, especially in developing countries where there is no baseline water quality data? And which particular use of ICT do you recommend?
Thank you. That's a really good question. Even today, I think somebody asked me about how do we see cyber infrastructure being useful for our physical network infrastructure if you don't have access to internet. What is happening, and within 5 and 10, and I think 10 years, the latest, even rural areas will have access to high-speed internet through satellite industry and satellite technology, because I think Elon Musk got some huge funding recently, $800 million plus for putting those satellites in the space. So the infrastructure will be there. As soon as the infrastructure is there, there is an opportunity to use that for digital development. The other kind of strand of activity that I think will be very important is citizen science. You know, with mobile phones that almost everybody has these days, there are 15, 20 sensors in them. There is, you know, evidence that AI and photography technology, camera technology combined can give us quite a lot of insight into, for example, water quality. So I can imagine, mind you, I must have read somewhere already that somebody is doing it by taking your mobile phone to the water body, taking the photograph, uploading it into a system that AI can analyze it, like doctors are doing with tumors, that we can get better understanding of water quality. So I can see huge potential for developing or medium income and low income countries as well.
Great, thanks for answering that. So the next question is, what at minimum qualifies any water system as a smart water system?
Oh, nice. Well, according to my definition, that we try to predict and visualize, or or the definition that I appropriated, we're trying to predict and visualize something that we cannot measure, but based on something that we can measure. As soon as you have sensors in the system, your system becomes smarter. And then the definition, what level you are on that digital transformation curve, it could be a little bit subjective. But I would imagine that quite a lot of systems now have the basic SCADA implemented, and based on that, quite a lot of developments in this dashboard, analytics behind it. There are lots of providers in the world and lots of people interested. So the acceleration of that is tremendous. in the world. So very difficult. I'm not able to kind of give you a better answer than that. I apologize for it.
Great. I think you did a good job anyways. Our next question is from Pierre Mishra. How were you able to get into a new field in the UK? I ask that because in all new jobs we apply to, we have to sell ourselves based on our past related experiences. So how do you prove to a new employer that you can learn on the job and get the work done even if you have not done the work before?
2 words: transferable skills. So in whatever kind of area you're working in, you have gained many transferable skills. So it's up to you to kind of elucidate those, to kind of do a bullet point. This is what I've learned, and I'm ready to learn some new skills, but this is how I could use those skills on the job that you're offering. And the best, I think, advice I got was look into the advert, look into what is required from the applicant or for the successful applicant, and then map your skills against those. And that is the best way of convincing yourself first, and then you will be able to convince the appointment committee that you are there. So transferable skills, absolutely necessary. And lots of people think, oh, I don't have any transferable skills. But no, go back, see what you have done, and you will find out lots of those in there, buried in there.
Yeah, it's a very good point, and definitely something that I've done myself as well. I always print out the job adverts and just write down crazy notes of what I think I've done and examples, and kind of using the SMART approach as well. So yeah, very good tips. So I'll just keep going through the questions. So one question that's kind of come up a few times now is a bit about also what advice you would give to someone who has not pursued a degree yet in the smart water movement, but maybe comes from another sector like engineering. What would be some advice you would give to someone to get into the smart water sector?
To be honest, I don't think degree is something as a barrier in this case. I've met quite a few digital whiz kids that kind of dropped out before the university level or before the degree, and who have specialized and learned some really good digital skills that are absolutely necessary, or that there aren't enough people with those skills in the water sector. There are lots of apprenticeship schemes because the water sector is kind of it's not glamorous if you look in general. And when I start talking to people about how excited I am about wastewater-based epidemiology, I get that yuck factor and say, oh, sewers. But I'm very excited about it. I'm a sad person, but hey, the point is, if you can self-learn or organize yourselves to attend some of the online free courses, and there are so many resources there out there, so that you can actually build on those skills, I'm pretty sure you can find it, because the industry is not able to attract the best talent, and the emphasis is on the talent, not on the accomplishment, because they will train you, but you can bring that skills that can help them in the digitalized transition. So yeah, obviously, if you have a degree, that's a formal kind of confirmation of your skills. If you don't have it, then if you think you have the skills or want to get them, then you have to prove yourself through an apprenticeship scheme or something else.
Great, thanks for that. So we're getting close to the closing. So I'll just ask one last question now, which I think will be an interesting one. And for any of the questions that went unanswered, I think we will post them on LinkedIn and ask you if you could answer them there at a later stage.
Absolutely.
So the last question that I would like to ask you from the Q&A from some of the attendees is, I understand mentorship generally means someone older or more experienced than yourself, but has Prof Savic ever been inspired by someone with less experience or someone from another generation, so a more younger generation, or from any of your students?
You can imagine that I've come across quite a few smart people, and I had students that were much smarter than me. And I've learned a lot from those. Gianluca Dorini, hello, and a few others. The Italian names come very close to me now because there were quite a few guys from Politecnico di Milano who were absolutely brilliant. So that's on the kind of science side of things. Jim Davidson from Manitoba, he was my kind of classmate from the university, but he was absolutely brilliant, and I've learned quite a lot. And I think humility was one of the best things I learned from him as well. So it's not just science. So yes, there were lots of people that I've learned a lot from, who were either my students or much younger than me. But as I said, learn continuously. Don't be afraid of learning, and don't be afraid of learning from a particular group of people, or degree, no degree, young, old, no difference at all.
Thank you. I think that was a great last wise words of wisdom, if I can say that. And now I'll hang it back over to Rudy to close up the session, and also Sapir for some next steps in the RiSWP activities.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lisa, and thank you so much, Prof Savic. It's been an absolutely inspiring session with you. I want to give you just one more opportunity for any closing thoughts that you'd like to add before we close the session.
Absolutely delighted to be invited here by you guys, and also that people are interested in this field. As I said, it's not the most glamorous field in the world, even if you put the smart in front of it, because we know what we're dealing with. But again, I think I would say if you are in this webinar, you're in the right field. The things with the computers, operating systems, the things with mobile phones will change, inevitably will change. The things with water will not. What I mean by that is we will face water challenges until the end of the world. So there will always be a job for you guys. So think about that, and just be ready for it. Bright future. Thank you.
Thank you again, Prof. It's been a real honor. And I'm going to ask Sapir just to share a quick closing slide. We've got a link in the comments, in the chat, where we've got a short survey. So if you could please give us some feedback. This was our very first episode, and we'd love some feedback to improve on the next one. Our next one, as you can see on the screen, is coming up at the end of January on the 27th at the same time. And we'll be speaking to Dr. Jo Burgess, and she's from Our Utilities. So we look forward to hearing her interview. Stay tuned, and we'll keep in contact to let you know where the recording will be posted or when it will be posted, and it will be on the RiSWP page on the Swan forum website. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us, and I hope you have a lovely week and a good season.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.